But, you have to use the heart the proper way. And as we said before, the things that block the heart most effectively are shahawat. They are appetites and anger that are out of control. Okay, that's the second matter that we talked about. When our anger and our appetite are out of control and we do things we shouldn't do and say things we shouldn't do, then that will sully the heart. It will darken the heart. The mirror won't work properly. Okay, those are the shahawat. Now we're talking really about the shubuhat. The shubuhat being the fallacies, the misconceptions, the confusions that we have. And in this case, the shubha might be nothing more than wrong priorities. In other words, we love Allah, we want Allah, but we're always focusing on other things. Maybe we're concerned with our personal relationships, our friendships, and things like that, which are not, those are important parts of our life, but they should not be our ultimate concern. And they should not divert us from looking at those things which are ultimate concerns. Okay, then the next matter that he talks about is one of the greatest veils of all, and one of the most subtle veils of all. And this really is, maybe we could say, the core of shubuhat. It is the core of fallacious ideas and misconceptions and misconstruing reality. So in order for the heart to work properly, then we have to have in it sound knowledge. We have to cultivate ourselves to use the right language when we speak about reality. We have to have the right images that we're looking for. And we have to also have sound cognitive frames and paradigms and content, the content of our belief and so forth. So therefore, a person may have a heart which is very sound, mature, intact, and that person may also be one who controls his or her appetite and anger. So they're not doing wrong. They're not saying things that are wrong. They may be very polite. They may be very courteous. And that person may even be looking for the right things. Like, I want to know Allah. I want to know the meaning of life. I want to know about myself. And yet they can be fundamentally veiled. And the veil here is the fact that they do not have the right knowledge. They do not have the right ideas. They do not have the right cognitive frames and paradigms. And they have adopted as true other conceptions which are fallacious. So this blocks them very much. And also here we could put things which have more of a moral content, such as the fact that there can be prejudices. There can be presumptions. There can be other kinds of commitments to the tribe or to the school or to the sect and those block the heart. And you can have very good Muslims who are very sincere and who read the best books, but their hearts are narrowly confined in a particular sectarian outlook. Or even it can be a particular school. And it can be one of the great schools of Islam. But that's like for them everything. Okay, so that becomes a veil also. Right? You cannot see in the mirror anything but what you believe, and anything that is inconsistent with your convictions that you already have, you will be blocked from. The same way that we think. Unless we get our cognitive frames right, we can't understand reality. For example, one of the great realities of history is that Muslims were going to North and South America long before Columbus. And inshallah, I hope to write a book on this. There have been some things written on it before. It's something that I've studied a lot. But in 1312, Mansa Kankan Abu Bakr II sent 2,400 boats with Mandinka and Mambara and other warriors across the Atlantic Ocean directly into the equatorial current. And he got to the other side. And we have terracotta proof of that in ancient Mexico and in other parts of the New World. This is an amazing story, and we can prove this with a historical validity that is superior to even proving that Columbus crossed the ocean in 1492, which we don't doubt. Okay, and in the National Museum of Mexico, you have terracottas, which are these beautiful clay figurines of men who were in his fleet, who are so distinct that you can show them to a West African who has knowledge about these things, and I've done that, and they can even tell you what profession they had and what tribe they had. One of them is a famous black face that has a Mandinka helmet, and I showed him to a great Mandinka scholar, and he said, Dolso. He said he is a hunter, meaning that he was the head of the fleet, and he has the spiritual gifts that enable him to hunt lions and also to protect you from snakes. And he would be the one to put the fleet together and to outrig the boats and to take them through the jungles when they got to Yucatan. And he's right there in the National Museum of Mexico. And the terracotta was made around 1315, according to archaeologists. And you have a lot of others as well. Some of them, you show them to West Africans, they'll say he's a Bambara, and this is a warrior, and this one has another cast. And one great German scholar, Alexander von Wuthenau, who has written about this very thing, he will take European students and he will show them the terracottas, and he will say, what kind of people are these? They say, well, they look like Africans, but they can't be. There were no Africans in America before Columbus. And when Columbus comes to Mexico City, Tenochtitlan, when he conquers it, he writes in his diary, I found in it many mosques and many pagan temples and many beautiful houses. And most historians know that. But again, they say, but that can't be. There were no Muslims here before Columbus. So what's going on here? Cognitive frames. They do not have the cognitive frames and the paradigms that enable them to process that information. Therefore, they can't see it, even though it's as clear as day. So this is one of the most important things of all. You've got to have knowledge in your heart, and you have to construe it properly. And one of the greatest credits to Islamic civilization is that we use language very carefully. And we set our cognitive frames very carefully. And also when we talk about empirical science, and some of you have asked questions about empirical science, this is what we have to do. Empirical science should only be descriptive. It should never be metaphysical. If you want to be metaphysical, then you learn metaphysics, and you can do that. But when you're studying this physical world, that's a great thing to do. You can describe and you can generalize. And you can make general statements about customary reality. Okay, but you must not be deceived by thinking that what you see of reality is the whole story. If you do that, it will veil the heart. Okay, so then among the things that veil the heart are ideologies and ideas, prejudices, and so forth. The materialist must be freed from the illusion of his or her materialism. Otherwise, the heart won't work. Anthropomorphism, the conviction that God exists, but he is like you and me, that he's like a human being. Okay, so that will block the heart. The Trinity. And as we said before, we tolerate Christians, and they are our neighbors, and we will defend them. But that doesn't mean that we say, you're okay, I'm okay. No, it's like, let's talk about your belief. Where did you get this Trinity? Has no basis in your Bible. Let's be honest about it. And this will block you. I know myself that in coming to Islam, alhamdulillah, the Trinity was one of the first things I rejected as a Christian. I was 12 years old. And I don't want to tell the story because we don't have time. And my father was my help there. And my father was a very intelligent man. And I had just become a Christian. I'd learned the catechism, and he said, do you really believe in that? You really believe in the Trinity? Because he didn't, and most Christians don't. Many Christians don't. And then for me, it's like, I can't take that. It's like, this doesn't make sense, does it? So it will block. And when you come to Islam and you learn the simplex nature of reality based on the oneness of God, it opens your heart to all kinds of things that you couldn't understand before. I experienced that in my own life. It's like, how could you not have seen this before? But you can't, because you have already other cognitive frames that block you. Idolatry, polytheism, communism, fascism, nationalism, atheism. Okay, these are all ideas, right? They are all structures of cognitive frames. And you have to change that first. You have to get that right first. Sheikh Hamza often talks about the great sheikh, who was taken to an atheist. And when he came in, he said to the atheist, this is a long time ago, he said, the God you don't believe in, I don't believe in either. Because you have false cognitive frames about reality and about God who explains that reality. And, therefore, I don't accept those cognitive frames. And the kind of God you conceive of falsely based on that, that's not the way I conceive of God. Okay, so we have to have adequate theology. We have to have hearts that are free of fanaticism. And we have to be free of, this tribal spirit connected to our own schools, to our own point of view, and so forth, seeking the truth. But all these things will block us. They are very, very big blocks. And this is probably among the most important of them all, the shubuhat.